Right. So to recap our last session, Judith, by way of Mordecai, letter to Mordecai, informed the coterie of what she was told about the Norwick prince Sebastian and this other unknown, Basileus, as being responsible for much of the discord in the British Isles. Most of the coterie's efforts went towards hunting down this ship, the Hemlock, and its captain, Saraceno. Judith spent some time meeting with her Welsh contact and found an unexpected ally, a Welsh cainite by the name of Owain, who claimed the old Lincoln Prince John Mark had been slain by an Irish cainite, and that this had been coordinated through the efforts of someone named Damien. Robert settled on employing the services of sheriff's hounds to the task of apprehending Saraceno, and both Nicholas and Robert ended up in Elysium, learning that there were some alterations to the events of Douglas as it has been reported through rumor. And the session ended with Nicholas sensing some presence nearby and leaving Elysium. So we returned to the streets of London, March 1456. The crisp night is early. Many still walk the crowded, filthy cobblestone streets. Nicholas Ridley is departing from Elysium, and you're moving through the streets, Nicholas, for some time, and in your periphery you notice something, a man visible against the wall by the faint light of the torches from some passing guards. You hadn't noticed him before, but you notice him now. He has his hood up, but he looks about late 40s or so. His attention is squarely on you, and he gestures vaguely with his head to approach. You can see he's in rough, tattered rags that hang down to his feet.
And approach Nicholas does, hands clasped behind his back.
Good evening, Mr. Ridley. I thought better than to continue in your shadow. You would have seen me in time either way, I'm sure.
Only a matter of time.
He nods weakly.
You have me at a disadvantage, sir. You know my name.
Let us say I am an interested party. However, your attention is partly why you got my attention. Your kind has always had an affinity for knowing and seeing things the rest of us cannot, or will not. And you seem to have this affinity, even outstanding that. It's not often anyone is even aware I am even in the same room.
It is a proclivity I have always possessed, even in my breathing days.
In most cases, I would say it serves you well, but perhaps now it presents us at something of an impasse, Mr. Ridley. I see you spend much time with members of high society. Although the gauntlet is not what it was, it still draws murmur to see who keeps their company.
It has not escaped my notice that you have referred to us as my kind. You are not cainite.
I spoke more broadly to your particular line, as being well attuned to these sights and sounds.
I see.
But with a gauntlet looking into things, they are better off missing. And you at their side, it is very possible they will find more than they were bargaining for.
I am in fact counting on it. I do so love theatrics.
Drama is all good and fun until you find you're in a play not of your own making.
Aren't we all puppets in another's play?
We could probably have a very long conversation on that topic, but I will not keep you. The war will continue. This, he gestures out broadly to the air and the world around you, is just a breath before the chorus. When it resumes, it will quickly crescendo. Now, Covenant, Anarch, or otherwise, you will want to have some powerful allies when that happens.
In fact, I want nothing more. How astute. Perhaps you already realize that is why I've aligned myself with the Gauntlet. Although they are proving less useful than I anticipated. Too much internal strife.
We have noticed that as well. We have noticed some proclivities of yours, some interests of more macabre nature, but you are a relative newcomer to this scene. So I've made no presumptions about why you choose to keep their company.
What precisely are you offering me?
It will not be very apparent what I'm offering you until you need it most. I suspect this gauntlet is close to a breakthrough, perhaps. They may miss it without your help. Of course, I would ask more than you simply failing to observe something. There is a bit more direct of an approach I would have you take. There are two individuals that it would be very helpful to us to have silenced, sooner rather than later.
Nicholas smirks a little bit at that. His interest is definitely piqued, but he'll allow the men to talk.
How much have your companions told you about the individual known as Bishop Louis de Poitiers?
They have been rather tight-lipped of necessity. I am not one of their own. Merely a useful ally.
He nods.
I do not hold that against them.
Nor should you. They are in need of help. And I expect you will continue to help them. But in this instance, less. Bishop Louis is in Canterbury right now. From the most report, he has been captured. There is a manor which he is being held at. if some way you would be able to ensure his silence before further questioning could happen, and ensure that anyone that might have already gotten to him in that manner does not leave, that would go a long way to you solidifying allies in the future.
I cannot say it is not a tantalizing offer. Who exactly do you represent?
You're a smart man, Mr. Ridley. I think you can put that together yourself.
In fact, I think I already have.
Do not expect the good bishop to have given much secret away to many people. But there is one, a neonate by the name of Cornelius, who may have heard things. Preferably, ideally, he would not be able to share this.
And if I were to assist you in silencing these flapping bone jaws, I assume I could call on you in the future for aid.
Of course. He smiles. It's a warm and faint smile, the smile of an old man. A comforting look. You actually see much life in his cheeks, the occasional glow of the fire from the torchlight.
That does intrigue him somewhat. I must also assume that the gauntlet as they exist now would not come to harm.
No. They serve a purpose. All of this must continue. Like that play we were talking about. The war will resume. The gauntlet will continue its investigation. But not to the end that they hope.
What is the end you see exactly?
Would love to share that with you, and perhaps in time I may. With this being our first meeting, perhaps best to keep to pleasantries and such.
And should I need to find you again?
We have a number of assets spread across England. I myself, you may find me. However, you may more likely find one of my assets. More likely we will find you. Unless you anticipate an urgent need very soon.
I trust that you are not looking for the anarchs to succeed.
He smirks. none of them will succeed. But we'll let them try for a little bit longer.
You have come to the right person. I think that war would serve both our purposes very well.
I am pleased to hear that, Mr. Ridley. And don't you worry, we'll find you. Good evening.
Nicholas bows his head politely.
And he'll saunter off into the streets, following after some guards. He joins the crowd. You maintain sight of him. Eventually, the crowds disappear around a corner. More crowds replace them. The city moves on. What does Nicholas do, and what's going through his mind?
Nicholas's mind is abuzz with activity, which does not show in his stiff gait as he returns to Elysium to seek out Robert. But he's certainly intrigued by the offer this man has made. He does so love theatrics, as he said. And fomenting a little discord is well within his wheelhouse. So long as it means the Gauntlet's not harmed, that part he was serious about. He's not sure he can consider them his friends, but nor does he wish to see them come to harm. They're all just puppets in this like he is.
The scene fades on you returning to find Robert. Robert, we're going to say it's a little bit later in the night. You've had your meeting with Cash. You have successfully recruited his hounds for this task of getting at Captain Saraceno, and return to the Manor of Elenid, which for the time being seems to harbor and cornerstone the coterie. And you're stepping through the hallway near the foyer when the doors open and you see that Nicholas has rejoined you. The scene is yours.
I trust you found something interesting.
That was to Nicholas.
Mm-hmm.
More than interesting, I should think. More pawns emerge from the darkness every night.
Pawns.
One night you will ask me about it, and I will explain. But not tonight.
Very well. I think our ship issue will be taken care of.
Can we be certain?
Can one ever be certain of anything but I believe the odds are in our favor.
Then all we must do is wait.
To keep occupied in the meantime, however, one of the witch hunters were captured. I would like to find out more about them.
Captured, you say?
Why, yes. The neonates were successful.
That is excellent news. Where is the prisoner now?
Out of character, where is the prisoner?
You were informed by the... what is his name? By the Venture Knight, Sir Lionel, that the prisoner, this hunter, was kept in kind of a makeshift cell at the bottom of his manor. He was kind of gifted to you by the neonates to do as you please.
Within the city. Shouldn't be too far.
And who is the captive?
Who they are, I do not know. And what they are, I do.
Everyone has a story, Master Tver.
Yes. I assume you wish to take first hand of their story.
I would relish the idea.
And perhaps we'll go together.
You said we're at Element's Manor, right?
Yes, on that note, what has Element gotten up to this night?
If you recall it, she went down to the docks to keep watch while they were at Elysium, just in case anything happens that might have to deal with their investigation.
That's right. It is not the night that Robert's ledger suggested the boat was arriving on, and it doesn't seem like anything else is happening this evening, at least not in the time you've been there. So all is quiet right now.
Alrighty. She'll head back then. trying to be careful and being a sneaky sneak so she's not seen. At least not until she gets closer to the manor. She doesn't want any lookouts at the docks to know she's been there.
Okay. Give me a standard wit stealth roll. And after that, I will also take a perception alertness.
Alright. I do not have stealth, so that's +1 to the difficulty.
Correct. Alright. You're quite successful in sneaking away. Let's give me a perception alertness.
Standard difficulty?
Yes.
Does detail-oriented apply?
It does. With 5 successes, you do not notice anything on your way from the docks back home. Seems like everything is as usual. And so, Robert and Nick, you two are finishing your discussion in the foyer when the sound of the door opens and some light emerges from the street again, and you see Elenid has rejoined you.
Well, nothing was out of the ordinary.
Good. We have not attracted too much attention. And assuming the sheriff and his hounds do their job, this will be taken care of for us.
Yes. Which means we are left to prepare for our differing travels.
Yes. Before we go, the hunter that I suspect knows of who is behind the worshipful mercers. At least one of their associates has been captured. Me and Nicholas intend to question them thoroughly. Did you have any interest in coming along?
I would be interested in this, yes.
Good. Whatever abilities this one has, the 3 of us going at it should likely make them crack.
And if normal methods do not work, well, people tend to be a bit more cooperative after they've been exposed to the shadows for a while.
And shall we leave this night?
I'm sorry, where is he being kept?
Robert will mention the district.
It's in London, it's not very far.
How late in the night is it?
Still not very late. We'll say around midnight.
Alright, they got plenty of time tonight to do the interrogation then. It would be most prudent to make use of our time, yes.
Very good.
Alright, so the three of you depart in the direction of this manor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the three of you depart. You make your way just beyond the walls of the city of London as the city sprawls out quite a ways now. And there is a fine estate just outside on the north end. It seems to be relatively new, as buildings in London go. It has a nice courtyard and guards at the front, and banners you recognize to belong to Sir Lionel. It's a short affair of presenting yourself, being recognized as someone Sir Lionel might anticipate, and being led through his halls, through his great hall, and downstairs to this kind of dark crypt basement. It seems like it might have once been used for burial of family members, but seems to also now have an interesting new addition. There is something like a metal prison at the end. It's not clear when it was constructed, but it does look well fortified. The bars reach from ceiling to floor, and inside you can see a bucket in the corner and a plate with some scraps of bread, and a man who is kneeling and faced away in little more than a torn and bloodied white shift. He has long, dark brown hair, which is messy. From this side, you cannot see very much of him. He looks physically fit despite his conditions. He seems not to have any reaction to the sound of the servant leading you in or guiding you forward. The servant departs, stepping up the stairs, leaving the three of you in this room with some man in a prison.
We're outside the bars, right?
Yes, you are outside the bars.
He's a fine specimen, is he not?
Be careful with this one. Robert will begin stepping closer.
As you get closer, you think you can hear the hushed tones of intonation of a prayer. It sounds Latin.
Robert will step loudly to the gate and wait a moment for this man to finish whatever he's doing.
Nicholas doesn't think he has any intention of finishing anything, but he'll step forward as well, if only to observe this man praying.
Then you also hear what sounds like the end of a Latin prayer. Et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. Can smell your stink from here, creature. And he turns to look at the group of you.
So you know of us. A pleasure. I am known as Robert. What is your name?
When he turns, you can see his face is severely beaten and battered and bloodied. He has a black eye. The front of him looks quite wounded. You're actually surprised he's moving as well as he is, given what you can see are blood stains in the shift. I am a man of God.
Does this man of God have a name?
Why do you care, creature?
Because I am curious of what you know.
I know you are all forsaken things, as far from God's light as can be. You may call me Sir William.
Indeed. I did not expect a knight.
His head kind of turns, watching you, and then turning to the others. Make a perception awareness roll, each of you, standard difficulty. Two successes for Robert. Got 6 from Nicholas, and 3 from Elenid. So Elenid and Robert, do you have any specialties, Elenid?
Not unless detail-oriented was.
Not for this. But still, you and Robert can both tell this man sets apart from the average kind you pass by a million times in the streets. While you would view the kind you pass by as possible meals or sheep of some kind, this man has a different energy about him. Not like the beast you sense in cainites on occasion, but of some other kind of danger. There's something imminently threatening just about his existence. And Nicholas, at 6 successes, you know that this man is set apart from other mortals and has a threatening power behind him, but you also sense a holiness, a kind of guilt that draws out of you, something you haven't felt in a long time.
He does not like that.
Tell me, Sir William, what did our kind do to you?
Your very existence is a blemish upon creation. If that were not enough, your predation upon God's flock is an abominable act. You do the work of the adversary.
We do no such thing, Nicholas says. We are servants of nature, the natural order.
There is nothing natural about you, he interrupts.
Is it not said our curse was given by God himself? Perhaps curse is the wrong word. Our mark.
And do the preachers not say we are all God's children?
He pushes himself up at some pain and length, wincing somewhat to hold himself up and balance against the bars of this prison. You are not anything God would consider his child. You could not be father. I do not sense even a fraction of his light in any of you. Whether you know it or not, and his eyes turn back to you, Nicholas, you serve the adversary.
We are all sinners, are we not? How can you so readily see what is within us?
Through my training and through God's given gift.
And is what you speak true? You sense nothing of God in us.
Nothing.
And you've gathered this in an instant. Or have you even tried?
I would not require any training or gift to see what is on your face of all. You do not even to attempt to hide it, do you? Look at you. Have you even glanced upon your visage? In the stillness of the water, you do not even look like a person. Speaking most directly to you, Robert.
Would you also condemn a leper?
A leper bears the light of God within him. A spark. We all hold sin, but we all may be redeemed. That is not true for the three of you. Your only salvation will come from destruction. That is your only hope.
I see. Tell me, what do you know of the worshipful Mercers?
He strains his face, looking in confusion. What interest does a monster have in this company of merchants?
Surely you know, or maybe you do not. Or that all of us monsters were of the same damned mind. But even amongst the damned there is strife.
We have begun to learn that. But even if I knew something about these Mercers, why would I tell you, monster?
At least the greater evil that is behind the Mercers.
He starts to laugh, but then starts to cough. He grips at his chest. Greater evil. You are all the greater evil. I simply smile at the idea that you have conflict amongst yourselves. Even the devil's agents destroy themselves. Provides me some small amusement in my final hours.
As I was saying, are you from these isles?
I am not.
Ah, you have no loyalty to the soil.
I have loyalty to every good Christian man, woman, and child. From here to the Levant.
And perhaps it would be in your interest to prevent a mass bloodshed.
Make a manipulation subterfuge roll. Difficulty 8.
Is this including all his merits?
You're a smooth talker.
Mm-hmm.
That's to persuade, charm, or command.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it to you at difficulty 6.
Thank you.
Wow. 5 successes. What bloodshed do you speak of?
War. Undue wars that need not be.
Because of your trifling. You and your kind, no doubt.
Had I God's knowledge of how things would progress without us, I may be more content to perform self-destruction. But no. I do know that our kind certainly will push others to be more violent than they would already be.
Get to the point, servant.
Truly, you suspect that the top of the Mercers is one of us.
He looks a bit surprised, although it's kind of difficult to tell through the blood and the bruising of his face. So it reaches that high. I suppose I should not be surprised. He starts to slump down in his cell, holding onto the bar.
This is a revelation for you, or am I just confirming your suspicion?
I knew some of them were. I had hoped it had begun like a festering wound begin to redden. Perhaps it's been at the heart, and all I saw was the edge. What do these mercers have to do with stopping the bloodshed? What care would you have?
What care would I have? I do not wish to see the complete loss of life of my countrymen. After all, I was once like you.
Make a charisma empathy roll, standard difficulty. Or manipulation empathy, depending on how genuine Robert feels.
I'll go with charisma.
Alright, standard difficulty then. Three successes. He looks up to you from his seated position against the bars. His eyes go to Elenid and Nicholas in turn.
Robert has a bit of a sad look on his face.
And what of these two? Feel they so strongly about this country and its lives and souls?
I do not think you wish to hear my answer to that.
I have seen firsthand what war can do on many sides.
His eyes go back to Robert after waiting some time. Let us say I believe you, monster. For some reason, you of your kind, even with your appearance, you wish to avoid more bloodshed. What does any of this have to do with some corrupt, poisoned merchant company?
The ones that motivate them to spread armaments among the land have also been manipulating others, older, more powerful than me, to conflict with each other. Those older and more powerful have, unfortunately, mortals under them. And they have come to a head, and it will grow more over time. And whilst they are weakened, the ones that have been behind all the manipulation will swoop in, enact their own role. Oh, truthfully, I cannot say which one would be more fit. But certainly the methods they are going about, they have no regard for life.
I know little of these merchants except for what I saw and what I had heard from our compatriot. He found only one, some envoy from this mercer. My compatriot is like me. He can smell. He can sense the disgust this Mercer came. He took him. He makes a fist in the air. Pulled answers from the monster. Though he walked in day, he must have been some servant of your kind. Lest he would have burned.
Yes.
I know not all of what he learned from the servant, but we did find out there's a place, the Tower of Talons. It is in the northeast, the county of Norfolk, the city of Norfolk.
Please continue.
Would that there was more to continue on. We only know that this servant came from Norfolk. He was expected to return. When he did not, they burned my friend's brother's home down in Yorkshire. They burned his buildings, hunting him, but he had escaped. The hunter smirks. They never found him. We had already taken the servant away for questions. He nods a couple times, satisfied.
McNally.
His
With a
eyes
brother.
shoot up to you, sharp.
Yes, I am aware of the brothers.
His smile turns into a grimace. I've said enough.
What you have said has been most helpful, and at least giving us a chance to prevent this war.
If you are so concerned with the souls of these people, you truly seek to end the pain and end mine. Bring me the death I seek.
Are you so eager to go to God?
I know I will not leave this place in any good condition, and I will never serve your kind. All I hope for is a good death. I can join the kingdom of heaven, as so many my cainites have.
Robert will look towards Elenid and Nicholas.
Can I roll perception empathy on this guy to make sure he's been telling the truth about what he's been saying?
Sure. Standard difficulty. One success. Overall, he seems truthful, but very reticent to say anything more than he really needs to. What's Nicholas doing during this time?
Nicholas has been watching the man, sort of savoring the feeling of guilt that is stirring within him. He didn't like it at first, but now he finds it a curious emotion. He wants to know more about this man. He wants to taste him. And he's trying very hard not to show that on his face.
If it helps influence your decision, the information he gave at least seems truthful.
I do not suspect otherwise. I am curious, Sir William. Even if you miraculously made it out of here, would you still unendingly hunt us down? Everyone. Even those that I would consider far more holy than me.
He looks you dead in the eyes. You see a conviction in him. Until my last dying breath, I would hunt all of you down.
Well, he knows what we look like now, for to release him now would be more of a liability.
Is this man under your care, Robert?
He essentially is.
And how willing are you to let him meet his maker so soon? During this conversation, Nicholas's eyes don't leave the man.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
He asked how willing you are to let the man meet his maker so soon, while staring at him. Basically, he's asking, are you thinking to execute him, or are you open to other options?
How long has he been captive?
Not terribly long. Maybe a few weeks. A month at the most. Your neonates just got back.
Mm-hmm.
You think pretty recently, given that most of his wounds don't look like they've healed. Or perhaps new ones were inflicted.
I'm curious. Elenid. Do our powers have any sway over this man?
I am uncertain. I have not used any on him. Have you? Is that why you're asking?
I have not. Robert will attempt to awe him.
All right. So that's going to be Charisma Performance, difficulty 7. You'll be spending a blood point. You feel the power come from your blood again as you fill this room with the radiance of your presence. But as you do, you feel a repulsive force from this man. You don't sense that he's being impacted the way you expected. Your devilry will not work on me. I should have known. You are just another monster. You care not for the souls of others.
I at least care for survival. Rest assured, I did not truly mean to bend you, but that you can even sense what I attempted just now. It speaks of your faith. You must truly be protected by God.
He glares at you.
Very well. Any last requests, Sir William?
My request has been stated.
Consider, if you will, another option, Nicholas says, his eyes finally turning to...
Do go on.
He looks back to the man. We could make him one of us. And I should note that Nicholas has no intention of doing this. He's fully intending to put the fear of the devil into this fellow.
You do see his eyes widen, a combination of rage and fear.
Wouldn't that be something? Satiate a scientific curiosity. Can even the most pious of these cattle be made to see the light?
I swear by all that is holy, Christ will sear the flames of your tissue. Your skin and bone will be as ash.
Then that too would be a revelation.
No. What you present is very curious indeed. It may even speak of what happens to our souls. But not this one. If ever there is another opportunity, it will come. This man has helped us too, with all good intentions.
It seems you still cling desperately to those things that make you human, Robert. Eventually you'll have to learn to let that go.
As you can see from my appearance, humanity is the only thing that is keeping me from being a monster.
Am I a monster? Nicholas seems extremely curious about what he'll say.
Nolan raises an eyebrow at the silence that followed.
Robert closes his eyes for a moment and opens them. No, you do not look like a monster. There is a coldness from you.
But you had to stop and consider, did you not?
I did. There most definitely is a stillness, a coldness that is not found within humanity, within your form. Do you consider yourself a monster?
Nicholas actually seems taken aback by that question. I haven't taken the time to consider it. Perhaps in my periods of self-reflection I can give you an answer. But for now, I have all the answers I need from this one. For the record, he turns to the knight. We would have never converted you. You are not worthy of this gift.
He spits on the ground outside the cell.
Robert begins to draw his sword.
Elned puts a hand over hers and stands there, just in case this individual tries anything.
And this man was behind a gate, or?
Yeah, it's pretty simple construction of metal prison bars vertically arranged. The servant gave you the key as needed, left you with it.
Robert will open the gate and begin stepping forward to this man, weapon in hand. Before I send you off, I have a request of you.
And he's off to your left as you step in, kind of leaning against these bars. And he struggles to turn around and looks up to you, still at that knelt position.
When you do meet God, pray for me.
Please, Nicholas says.
Robert will raise his blade and attempt the cleanest blow he can muster.
Alright, no roll required. He does not fight back. In his last moments, he looks upright and keeps his eyes open the whole time as you bring the sword down. He remains still, and the cut goes through him. The man in such a state, there was not much needed to bring him down. Your sword cleaves through him and his body falls crumpling to the ground. Blood starts to pool out onto the stone tiles.
With that, Elenid will turn to leave, her hand leaving her sword.
Nicholas watches the man's life gush out, and as the blood begins pooling underneath the bars, he kneels down and dips his finger into the puddle. He's going to take a taste to see if he really does burn.
Alright, so you taste some of the blood coming from him?
Yes.
Just like finger prick him out?
A finger's dab, yes. He's not foolish enough to suck it up off the floor.
Fortunately, you only get as far as a finger's breadth of blood, and you do immediately recoil from the burn of the blood. It actually sizzles a bit on your tongue. You think much more might have actually done some serious damage.
He'll turn his eyes back to the body and then up to Robert, who is probably feeling remorse even now. He wasn't lying.
Robert just closes his eyes and slowly nods as he wipes his sword clean and sheaths it and begins to walk away. Assuming he'll meet Elenid on the upper level, or perhaps even the neonate himself.
You do not see any indication the neonate is present tonight. And the three of you are allowed to move as you please, leave the manor together.
Nicholas will ask Robert, "How did that feel, Robert?"
Without enjoyment.
But why? What thoughts were going through your mind as you relieved that man of his head? I must know.
That perhaps his conviction, his view on our kind is accurate in some way.
You truly did hope he'd pray for you in the afterlife.
Robert just slowly nods at this.
How intriguing. And Nicholas falls quiet and follows them out.
I am rather concerned with you, Robert.
I am concerned for myself as well.
You have been waking up later, and I fear that the cause of that has been affecting your mind, which could entirely be the reason for you reaching out to a person who so desperately wants to see us all dead.
What conclusion you've come to, I won't completely deny it.
You should be quite careful with that. Remedy it as soon as possible. Should anyone find out, they will use it against you.
Yes, you are absolutely correct. But how? That is the evading question.
You know your own mind better than most. This could need a good bit of self-reflection on your part.
Yes. Thank you for the advice.
Alright. So the group of you make your way back into the streets of London, presumably back to Elenid's new Manor Haven. We can return to passing some of the night in broad strokes. We'll focus in on Judith as we begin to enter March 1456. The last we heard from Judith, she was leaving Wales, and what were the rest of her plans now?
Given interactions in Wales, she was going to head down to Dorchester and see about seeking out Damien. At least trying to. If I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there was also a court agent for the Worshipful Company in Weymouth.
Looks like another audio track broke. Sorry, I was distracted by that. So you're going to Dorset to look for Damien, and potentially also a Mercer Company contact?
As far as the Mercer Company is concerned, I think all she really was going to do was leave word with them that she, specifically by name, was seeking an audience with someone in a position to make decisions. Whether or not they choose to take action on that would tell her a lot already.
So use the name Judith Stone.
Yep.
You inform this port authority or officer at Weymouth that you would like to speak to somebody with authority.
Right. Basically just let them know that I have business in Dorset. I'll be coming back this way when I depart. I'll check in again then. And you can pass whatever word you've received at that time.
Your message is received, and you get a kind of vague and generic reply from this authority that he will pass it along.
It's really all she had expected. It's actually a little bit more than she had expected, but hey, we'll take what we can get.
Mm-hmm. As for Dorchester, you're trying to get in contact with Damien. You were given an envelope from Owen, and in it was a set of brief instructions. You're informed of an inn that you should go to if you seek to find Damien. Let me open up my notes so I can remind myself. Auspiciously named the Sun Inn, you are instructed that there are a series of lanterns kind of set out at the side of this inn, kind of along this wooden platform that runs along it. Presumably just to kind of light the path, as it is otherwise somewhat dark. The note you receive suggests ensuring only a certain arrangement are illuminated. The kind of code is that lanterns are arranged in a line, about 10 of them. Some you leave dark and some you are intended to light. And this is supposed to be some kind of code that alerts Damien that someone wishes to meet in the next night.
She'll take the necessary steps and be at the appointed place on the following evening.
Okay. I think we will pause a little bit early here, since I want to get to that scene, but I'd rather not start it and then stop it. So we'll take a little bit of an early break here and come back in 15 to start that scene.
Hi.
All right.
Arigato.
Cool. Alright, we will return. So Judith, it's getting on to be mid to late March now when you have reached Dorchester place you have not been to in, I think, some time, perhaps not since the nights of Amelia and Gabriel. And you go about, per the letter, arranging the lanterns, some being lit, others not being lit, until you're quite certain you have it as described, and you return the next night. You have to wait there for about an hour, ensuring no one tries to change the lighting or messes with your arrangement. Fortunately, it seems no one does. People pass by here and there. Some look at you oddly as you're standing by this arrangement of street lamps or lanterns. The inn you are at has a little road that goes up the main drag of the city, and so it's big enough to have the occasional cart. And after about an hour of waiting on this evening, an individual rides up, and it seems like he's going to pass by, but he stops, his horse sidelong to the inn and you can see the rider is very heavily cloaked. Not with armor per se, but heavy robes and perhaps more than one hood. His face is well obscured. Now, there's not many lights from his lanterns. There's not much light to reveal much of his face. But after a few moments of odd waiting in the middle of the road with his horse, his head turns to you. Are you the one, then?
That depends. Are you the one?
I go by Damien, traveler. What do you go by?
Quite a few names. Of late, Judith.
Ah. I wondered which one you would pick.
If it helps, Griffith suggested I speak with you.
There's a name I recognize. Come, Judith, let us speak not on these plain streets. He starts to trot off at a slow pace.
She'll rise and move to follow.
Make a perception alertness, difficulty 8.
I was going to ask.
Two successes. Overall, atop this horse, his form is somewhat sprawled out. With these heavy robes, it's hard to tell what all he has, although you're keen enough to identify there's enough space and angle in his robes that you think he might actually have a crossbow somewhere under there. Certainly armed. Though you don't make out any more features of his face. He leads you through the streets of Dorchester. One of these streets ends up at a dead end of some smaller homes, the far western side of town, away from the larger thoroughfares. There's less light over here, although it's not without light. It seems like each house kind of has an ensconced torch to provide a little bit of light for the travelers. It's not that late in the night, so some people might need the help walking around. When he comes to this dead end, he turns, remaining on his horse. It seems like there's some movement under his cloak, as though he's kind of arranged himself under this kind of large, almost blanket of robes. So Griffith sent you. That's a name I don't hear very often.
I wouldn't expect so. He seems cagey. Well earned, but cagey.
Ah, yes, well earned. I would be cagey. Well, you must have made some impression for him to give you my name.
He thought our aims might, shall we say, dovetail nicely.
What exactly did Griffith tell you about me?
That you spoke on behalf and arranged certain things with a few Irish individuals.
Well, I have arranged a few things, but I would say Griffith did the hard part in our Irish friends.
He also suggested that if I wanted word to reach them, you'd have an easier time of it.
To reach the Irish, I don't think anyone has an easy time reaching them, nor would you want to. Not outside the pale, of course.
He mentioned, but being both English and a woman, I think I'd have a harder time than most.
Well, at least Griffith speaks some Gaelic, or what passes for Gaelic in Ireland. I think they might actually understand him. Well, what interest do you have in these things, Miss Judith Stone? You're of some esteem, or you were, as I understand it.
Certain individuals I speak for, we'll say, could use disparate allies, diversified support. It seems the Welsh and the Irish are making moves to foist off English control.
Seems like the anarchs are doing something of that sort as well.
And here we are.
So you have some in with the anarchs, I take it. That's how you plan.
Something like that. I had suggested that I might reach out to the Welsh. And after having done so, the Welsh suggested that I speak with you.
He nods a couple times, you think. He may have stuffed a hat somewhere under those hoods.
There will be a force marching north between Chester and the Cainites. It would serve both our causes if their supply lines didn't make it past Chester.
Oh. What's happening that far north?
Plans within plans. I'm not privy to it all, but we'd very much like to not be interfered with by Covenant forces. And given that an army marches on its stomach, well... And if the forces that happened to assault them were wearing surcoats with Barbarossa's heraldry upon them,
Certainly an idea to consider. I suspect you might have things a bit backwards from your interaction with Griffith. For it was he who brought the aid of the Irish. It was I who facilitated the support from elements already in England. Although these are not the military types, armies are not the forte.
no, I wouldn't recommend an army per se. Brigands. We're simply stocking those supply trains with spoiled food, something that they couldn't possibly sustain themselves on.
I can look into this. No promises, Judith Stone.
As I told Griffith, if we have your support and the army is struck in this way, we'll know that we can work together with the Welsh and the Irish. If not, well, no hard feelings. It simply wasn't meant to be. But it does mean we wouldn't be returning any favors.
Speak much to Ellen, do you, Judith?
She grins a bit. Speak much to Sebastian, do you, Damien?
He halts his kind of passive swaying in his seat. I wondered if the rumor of that snake was true. It sounds like you've been privy to a few more conversations than I thought you were.
I wasn't sure if you were responding to the lamp or the message I left at Weymouth. You slipped up when you mentioned Ellen.
Now, you did mention some anarch affiliation.
Did I?
You and that Cormac looked quite cozy up in Maiden Castle. And that was some time ago, I suppose.
And it took quite some time before I came around as well. Suffice to say, those I represent don't much care the aims of those whom you serve. They'd much rather have support of that organization and its head than have it extricated directly.
I take it you haven't involved your former companions on what you've learned about dear Sebastian.
I think at this stage, even if I did, I doubt they'd believe me.
Give me a manipulation subterfuge roll. Difficulty 6.
And I feel like one or the other of those specialties.
So omission and what?
Selective omission and persuasive. Obviously don't stack.
I'll go with omission. I think that's relevant.
You said difficulty 6.
Yes.
That'll be 6 successes.
Wow. Oh, wow. He kind of shifts again, seeming a bit more comfortable, nodding perhaps. Well, the better, I suppose. We wouldn't want a repeat of the estate. Unfortunately, Judith, you know just a few too many pieces of the puzzle. Well, wits alertness, difficulty 6. 7.
As he says that, can she move her hand up to her sword? Because that was deeply ominous and foreboding.
Yes, and with 2 successes on your wits alertness, what you think was before the crossbow, it seems to be moving into position. So I will give you that chance to react before something else happens.
Turnabout being fair play, can I cleave his hand off?
He's not that close.
Okay. How about slapping the haunch of the horse with the sword? The flat of the sword.
You've got about, let's say, 5 feet from the head of the horse.
He's that far ahead?
He's not very far away, but he's not striking range.
Well, no, I'm just slapping the horse in the ass.
He's facing you.
Oh. Fuck. Yeah, okay. How about if I just snarl and growl and use dread gaze on the horse?
Absolutely. Go for it. Gonna be charisma intimidation. Your difficulty will be... Oh, we will go with 4. Oh, 3 successes. All right.
Hell, that would have been 3 successes for anyone with less than 8 in that.
Yes. Very intimidating. Go ahead and describe Judith in this moment as you just realize Damien's leveling a crossbow at you.
She throws back her head, shakes loose her hair, and draws a blade, and her face twists into something animalistic, teeth bared, a silent roar, because people, comes out more as a hiss. It's definitely directed at the horse, but I would imagine even Damien gets a whiff of it.
As the horse rears up, neighing loudly, and you see that Damien's crossbow shot goes wide, flying into the air. He's going to try and regain or keep control of the horse and just not fall off.
And while he's doing that, Judith is going to make sure she's not in the path of the horse.
One moment. Okay. Surprisingly successful. 3 successes. He seems to know what he's doing on top of this horse. The reins grip tight as it continues to rear, and the horse starts to bolt off down the road that you came past you. Fortunately, you stepped out of the side or you would have been trampled.
Can I yank him off the horse as it goes by?
You can definitely try. You'll get a chance to. He's gonna go right by you. He's gonna try and grab him off.
Yep.
Alright, give me a strength brawl. Difficulty 8. It's gonna be a pretty difficult maneuver on a moving horse. Successes. Gonna give him a chance to hold on and resist. 3 successes both sides. He's gonna keep it just barely since he's defending. You get a good grip on him and actually follow with the horse briefly as you struggle against him, and he starts to slide off, but the horse is fast enough that you don't keep the grip long enough to finish it, and he pulls himself back up at the last second. But this horse is going, and you know it's going to keep going. You've put the fear of the beast in it.
Before she lets go, can she slash at the horse's withers? See about hamstring.
You can. Again, you're going to have a very short moment to have a shot at this, but I will let you try. Dex melee difficulty 8. Hamstring the horse as it just gets out of range.
Can I get a lightning reflexes on this too?
Yes.
You said diff 8, right?
Mm-hmm. Two successes. This is going to connect. Roll your damage. 1 extra success. Plus your sword and potence. This horse, of course, is not going to be soaking any of this. Oh, Jesus. 5 successes. You do more than hamstring this horse. You cut through the bone and sever the leg. The horse yelps and cries out a horrible sound as it starts to crash forward at high speed into the road. And he goes flying off of it. I'm going to give him a difficult chance at landing on his feet. No successes. He goes tumbling down, not under the horse, but maybe a few feet away. You can see some of the robes and the blankets he was covering with have fallen off and fell off the horse.
How busy were the streets before this all started?
Not exceptionally. It is early in the evening, so in the distance you can see people. There's no one on this road, but it won't be very long before someone comes by.
She's going to stride up to him and level the sword at his throat. We needn't fight. As I said, we seek allies, and I expect, for the moment, we look like a rather useful pawn. You're worried about silence. I kept a secret for nearly a century.
Make a manipulation expression difficulty 9.
Persuasive?
Yes. Wow. That is 5 successes on difficulty.
5 successes.
Jesus
Fucking
Christ.
next week's gonna suck because I'm gonna roll all one.
Alright, so you move quickly to come up to him before he has a chance to get up. as he's kind of tangled in his own robes and his cloak. There's so much of it. His crossbow is actually flown a little bit of the ways away, kind of rolling off into the stone a ways away from him. And you can see that his hand was on the hilt of what looked like a sword, as you already have a blade at his neck. And it seemed like he was just ready to join combat as your words come out. And they seem to stop him, at least in this moment. Unfortunately, if I don't kill you, we both die.
And if I kill you?
You'll die just the same. Just not by my hand.
On whose order?
Sounds as though you figured out more than most. It's a group much bigger than the Covenant out there.
She'll nod and then run him through.
Alright, I'm not going to make you roll for attack. You can roll straight damage, difficulty 6.
She's going to go ahead and pump blood, too.
Yeah, absolutely. You can add 2 dice to your damage since you're at his neck. Wow. 6 successes. Best case, he soaks half of that. He soaked none of that. So you take 6 lethal as your blade runs him through. Describe it.
Can we just call this a decapitation?
Yeah, I think we can. I'm not gonna. You're just at his neck. You clean it off.
So she, after a little nod, her reflexes take over and the blade simply flashes forward the last few inches with such force it cleaves the vertebrae in half, splitting the bone and toppling his neck from his shoulders. With a flourish, she knocks ash and blood from the blade and returns it to her scabbard to go and tend to the whining horse.
The decapitated body of Damien sinks down underneath the robes, not to pure ash, but certainly to brittle bone. He was of some age, at least. This horse is making a lot of noise.
She is going to give it to sup from her wrist and hopefully give it a chance to heal.
Do you have any animal, Ken?
No.
Okay. The severing of its leg was so thorough, you can already see just in the time you took to stop at Damien and speak your words and then run him through, this horse is bleeding a large pile of blood.
So basically no saving it.
You don't have much experience working with animals, but you know if a man bled this much, it wouldn't be long.
Well, in that case, she's not going to tarry any longer. She's just going to scoop up the robes and as much of, and the bones, and throw it under her own cloak. Try not to drop any of the big chunky bits.
Alright.
And scurry off.
Where would you like to bring the corpse of Damien?
Are there waterways nearby? Anything like that?
Yeah, there's a small river that's not too far from this kind of back end of the town of Dorchester. Kind of feeds into the water of the south.
It wouldn't be too weird after the 100 Years' War for some old bones to wash out during some rains. I would imagine these are very old-looking bones. She'll, as surreptitiously as she possibly can, drop the whole of the bundle into the river.
Just give me a wit stealth roll. Give you standard difficulty. One success.
I'll take it.
It's a little sloppy, but you take enough time, and fortunately, at this point, there aren't many people out in the darkness of the water out here to witness, and it wouldn't have taken much to identify what was going on, but luck was on your side, and you pull it off.
Unless, of course, Damien had friends that were watching, in which case, well, she's screwed either way. But
Well, no one else is coming out at you right now.
well, it seems like she's gotten her answer from Damien. No help will be coming from his end anyway. So she's going to make for Weymouth at the earliest opportunity and catch the very next vessel north.
Alright. So you would depart Dorchester.
Yep. She's going to make to meet up with Ellen.
Alright. You leave behind the scene of the dying horse, the scene of Dorchester, and make your way to Weymouth. It's not long before a ferry coming through is making a trip up north, and you're on your way in late March of 1456. And Just look at my notes. Are you going to the coast she told you about?
Yep.
All right.
Maybe not directly, but kind of in a roundabout way. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, would end up at that cottage.
So it's just a few nights later, a couple ferries, a carriage ride here or there, until you make your way to this coast in the north, not far outside of Carlisle. At first, you're greeted mostly by silence. You think maybe this is the wrong cottage. There's no light coming from inside the cottage when you arrive this evening. But you're not waiting very long before you hear the movement in the brush and the tall grass of people coming out of the darkness and the shadows to surround you. You recognize some of the faces you fought alongside in Douglas. And last to present herself is Ellen. I had not anticipated seeing you so soon.
It's fortunate that you're seeing me at all.
Perhaps also serendipitous. I had meant to send scouts to find you. There was a contact in the south I wished for you to speak with.
His name didn't happen to be Damien, did it?
In fact, it did. The same Damien we utilized before.
We had a disagreement between the details an Tet shared with us and details, well, drummed up while meeting with the Welsh. I was a liability, and he would have killed me. And his employers likely still will.
So he was compromised.
He was working for Basileus. Maybe not directly. But he knew enough to know that I knew too much, which means we all know too much.
Her eyes go down into the tall grass before you, looking dejected. I wonder for how long. It was thanks to him we knew of you before you'd even reached Maiden Castle.
I would expect long before that. However, I do have good news.
She looks up.
The Welsh and the Irish already have their own conflict begun with both the Covenant and England herself, and I believe that they will assist us.
What gives you this idea?
The man I spoke with called himself Griffith. I don't believe this was his real name, but he was a cagey type. Refused to take credit for making arrangements with the Irish and organizing strikes in Lincoln. Jean-Marc, specifically. He suggested that it was Damien that couried word, and Damien refused to take credit himself. I've not met many Nosferatu not happy to toot their own horn.
So Damien is somehow connected to organizing his assassination.
I expect that Damien merely arranged ferries, passage to and from Ireland for certain parties.
She kind of folds her arms. By this point, the other anarchs have dispersed, and just the two of you are speaking now, under the moonlight and the tall grass.
If the Covenant forces arrive well supplied, well fed, and with a full supply train behind them, we'll know that the Welsh are not with us. If they are haggard, half-starved, wearing road-worn and rough-shod apparel, then we'll know that the Welsh have done their job, and may call on us for a favor in the future. I do have one confession to make.
Her eyes go back up from the ground to you.
Before meeting with Griffith and Anglesey, I shared the details that Anoph-Nemtet gave us with Elenid and Robert through a message, through secure means. I still believe the strife that you struggle against is the result of this Basileus' machinations. And I believe if we remove him and separate his influence from the Mercer Company, some reconciliation may be possible.
In fact, that was my goal. I had hoped for you to speak with Damien and inform him of Anoph-Nemtet's words. I had hoped to leverage this against this Basileus.
Damien was already aware of what I knew through rumor, but it seems there is, shall we say, an informant. Whether within our group here or somewhere else, I couldn't say.
It seems to me Damien was the informant. If he was already aware of these machinations, and you confirmed it, perhaps he saw that playing both sides was no longer viable.
His last words were that neither of us, excuse me, I'm going to try and rephrase or paraphrase, effectively that only one of us could leave that alley alive. Either one of us died or both of us did. I only hope that I made the right decision.
She smiles. You survived. That means it was the right decision.
But am I the greater good of those two? I expect time will tell.
I have less concern for what the Welsh do. We will have victory at Carlisle, preferably with their aid, but I grow increasingly vexed by this group. If they could have organized or used the Welsh and the Irish to their ends, if Jean-Marc was their target.
I expected he was. How best to destabilize a region? Remove its leader. Replace it with another.
And ignite war between two already feuding elders.
Precisely. Add a rebellious group. Remove its strong right hand. Every single one of us, the Covenant Princes, the Welsh, the Irish, I think even us here, are all woven into the web of this one.
And this Basileus has certainly gone to great lengths to send the British Isles into hell. I can see if he has such influence why one such as that might be involved in the removal of your predecessors.
They too are getting very close to naming him specifically. Had they not been bickering amongst each other at the end, they might have achieved it, maybe even with some support from the Covenant.
You see Ellen suddenly look much more despondent. Our revolution will be meaningless. We could topple all the elders, and Basileus will still have all this control. We will have achieved his ends.
There is a chance. Unless we manage to thoroughly discredit her, Douglas, Eleanor will be leading at the head of whatever Covenant forces come north. And they will come. I may be able to convince her, given what we know now, to march on this tower in Norwich instead. Unify our forces with hers. It will not be the full might of the Covenant behind her, but it may be enough.
It seems your connection to the Gauntlet may yet prove fruit, even in the death of Thomas Chamberlain. I am loath to say it that without the support of the Covenant, Basileus may win this. And we need them.
Take heart. Even without the influence of a powerful elder behind them, the grievances that gave birth to your rebellion still carry weight, and they still ring true in the hearts and minds of Neonites throughout the Isles.
Should you find your companion, speak to her these words. Carlisle may be spared if Basileus is undone, if they support his removal. For that I would accept truce.
I will carry these words. Would you have me deliver them personally? Now.
If you believe you can safely find the Marshal at this time after Douglas, I would expect you publicly setting foot in any Covenant city would be grounds for your destruction. You will be hunted by the Mercers, Basileus, and the Covenant.
And if we come upon them, I will ride out to meet her under a white flag.
I wish you Godspeed.
Oh, I mean to be at Carlisle. Even with your willingness and these details. It may take Carlyle to muster the princess to action. But I will plead again for its prince's head. Spare his own life, so that we might forge something.
The border reavers and the Scots come in the summer. That is how long exists before Carlisle burns. And Broga Ironben will die. That is how long a truce may be struck, and it is not long at all. Should you find Elenid before then, and she agrees to the terms? Ellen nods a couple times. I will spare Broga in his city.
Three months. Let us hope she is quick about it. Lest she's already made for Norwich.
I leave it to your judgment. It has served well thus far.
Out of curiosity, how long would it take a messenger to make it from here to London?
From there to London, basically Carlisle to London.
Right.
Let's see. Look at my map. About 300 miles. With a fast rider, I would say about, pending weather, maybe 10 days, 10 to 20. There's a lot of variability between here and there.
I'll call it 14 just to be on the safe.
Yeah, I was going to say fortnight, most likely. That's one way. Are you still thinking?
Yeah. Pondering. Because in character, Judith has no idea where in the hell she might go. London seems like the best, safest way to get word to her. Or Malachi would know where she'd be going. Theoretically.
Mordecai?
Yeah. Why did I say Malachi? So she'll once again send word to Mordecai, both that the anarchs are willing to forge a truce in order to take down Basileus, and it sounds like they're willing to parley in order to resolve grievances. And if Elenid could bring her mustered force to bear, send word from Manchester. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's how that's going to go.
All right. And it's not difficult to arrange getting a courier on a good horse in the town of Carlisle, of course. No one knows your face there, fortunately. And your messenger is dispatched. And we will fade the scene at that. As we move back to London. Where Elenid, Nicholas, and Robert are in the midst of their plans to have this Captain Saraceno of the Hemlock apprehended. Now, Robert, can you give me very detailed or very explicit directions as to what over the next couple nights you tell the sheriff's hounds to do?
Well, they are to be watching the docks during the evening, within the time that ship is expected, and they are to strike when they see an opportunity to take this man into custody and present him towards the prince what's his name? The steward.
Mordecai?
Yes.
So I need specifically when the boat shows up, you want them to attack the crew and everyone in the middle of the night?
I do want them to have some discernment for numbers, what they think is possible, and when this is all in mind. But that's essentially it. Perhaps the stealthy one could track them to a more opportune location, but that's essentially what I want from them. They're just going there to apprehend this man.
So it sounds like you're kind of giving them carte blanche of how to apprehend him.
Yeah, he's not going to domineer it too much.
All right. As long as Captain Saraceno is brought to court.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me think for a moment. Okay. I'm gonna make a couple rolls. Okay. And I should also ask, are Elenid or Nicholas spending any time at the docks? Are they staying out of the way, or do they want to get involved?
I do think that Nicholas would spend time at the docks, but hidden.
Okay. Elenid?
Elened is more gathering some mercenaries for protection during their travel once they leave.
Okay. Put a pin in that and remind me in a second.
Alright.
First, we're going to see how this goes. Okay. All right. Robert, you're informed a few nights later, after the date that you're expecting this ship to arrive, that the hounds had success. That Captain Saraceno of the Hemlock seems to have been captured. They managed to avoid killing many crew members. A couple got involved, but overall, thanks to the involvement of one of the more discreet hounds tracking them to a discreet location, they managed to avoid involving the whole crew or making a very big bloodbath. And these cainites overpowered Saraceno. So he has been staked, and he is in a subterranean holding cell ready to be brought to court when needed. Of course, they're not going to haul around a torpid corpse until absolutely necessary. But it sounds like your group had success.
Wonderful. This all happened within time that we have not left. Well, we're making preparations to leave, but it's well within the time frame of before we've left.
Yeah, it's still like mid-late March for you guys.
Okay.
This all kind of transpired over a few nights. And so you're informed by the sheriff, and he wants to know what to do, or what you are going to do.
Well, since they're still there, they'll head over to interrogate this captain as well. There's no objections to that.
And the Sheriff Cash also asks if you want anything done with the ship, the Hemlock, as the crew is going to be looking for its captain, and if they don't do something, the crew might do something, like leave or start an investigation or something. Are you involving Elenid and Nicholas in this when the news is broken?
He will.
Okay. So we'll say that Cash is kind of presenting all of this to the three of you, and you all hear about this.
That would be a matter for the prince, would it not?
The ship?
The ship that was giving supplies to the anarchs, yes.
It would be. Do you not think it would be useful to speak to the prisoner ourselves, though?
Of course, but we must be prepared. Once we unstake him, he's bound to fight back.
Cash kind of looks up and speaks up at that point, Elenid. He has been staked. However, he's also been chained up. It's not the first time we've had to interrogate one of our own.
Perhaps this would be in the best interest for Mordecai to take care of this, along with the prince.
It does take away all our fun.
As you say. Yeah, unless you say anything, he's going to depart.
Nope.
All right. It's maybe a night or two later when you hear word that Mordecai and then the prince have been informed of the capture of this possible supporter or agent of the anarchs, this Captain Saraceno being detained. Mordecai, of course, being aware of some of your plans. It sounds like the ship is seized on the orders of Ambrose through Mordecai. The crew is executed, not in broad daylight, of course, but quietly. They are eliminated. And upon searching the ship, they find it largely contains exactly what the manifest described, mostly wax and oil and other such simple trade stuffs. But there's something of a false bottom in the cog, which provides much space for something. It's not very tall, but the iron chains attached at regular intervals and the smell of detritus suggests that this was used for human trafficking of some kind, though there are no people on it right now. Mordecai tasks you, Robert, with finding out more about what this Captain Saraceno was doing with this boat and what else he knows.
Well, any input from Elenid or Nicholas?
Nicholas is all for interrogating.
Roland would like to know what this person knows.
All right. Robert is content to go along with us.
All right. We'll transition scenes as you make your way to this tower. So you're quietly brought to the Tower of London. Cash leads you down a few paths deep into the tower. And after passing through a few heavy iron doors, you reach a room of all stone, no windows. And there is a man who is chained up across all of his limbs and against his neck. And except for these chains, he would be completely torpid and on the ground. He seems to be wearing typical sailor garb, dark and heavy, suitable for weathering the waters and the wind. He's a stout-built man, maybe of Spanish descent, although you can't see a very good look at him as his face is kind of hunched over and you can see the edge of the wooden stake. And so Cash steps into this chamber, and he looks to you, Robert, to see that you're ready for him to be unstaked.
Robert will nod.
So very carefully, Cash reaches behind and rips out the stake from this man before backing away, getting a good safe distance away. The man looks up. Where am I?
You can guess. The question is, do you want to confess now, or shall we rip it out of you?
He looks around the room, looking at the faces, maybe getting his bearings. Covenant scum. Should have guessed.
Robert will just look towards Nicholas.
Scott.
Huh?
You're up.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to keep it really quiet in here, so. What do you need to know?
Oh, he's yours to begin interrogation.
Okay. Nicholas paces a bit, looking down at the man.
He follows your gaze. Looks almost hungry.
How long have you been a traitor to the crown?
Which crown?
The Covenant.
Covenant. I suppose as long as however many years it's been since my sire tried to kill me to save himself. However long that's been. Few decades, perhaps.
And what exactly do they give you to do this?
Give me. I chose to do this. What better way? What better way to get back? You're not one of them. You don't walk like them. You don't sound like them. Elders. You wouldn't even be in this room if you were one. You're the people they get to do this. Why are you so loyal to them? What do they give you?
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind.
You care nothing for the silence that ensures our survival.
What is survival? You do enough things for the ones above you, the ones who are older. And for what? So that when the witch hunters come, they send you to the pyre. You're used up. That's how it's been. And don't pretend like you don't know it is. What's that? Is that surviving? You really think there's nothing better for us than dying for them? You ever try eating one of them? It's more than surviving. It's the first time I felt alive again. I only hope I get to meet my sire. He kind of nods again, his eyes are wide. One more time. On my terms.
I can see we'll get nowhere by appealing to a sense of loyalty. So instead we can be more direct. Tell us everything you know about them.
He grins, his fangs extend. His skin, although somewhat bronze from his descent, is certainly pale enough that there's no question about what he is. They're the new way. The new way of things. You can join or you can be consumed. You get me out of here, I'll put in a good word.
I don't think so. And he'll look to the other two. You both are here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I do have ways of extracting truthful testimony. But if you have any questions you'd like to ask, now would be the time.
Well, be obvious. Where were you planning on heading next after you've picked up a new supply?
You ever stop to wonder where this all ends for you? You go through all this effort to interrogate me. If I don't give your answers, you pull them. You tell your answers to the elders. They have you do something else. When you run out of things you can do for them, you ever think about what happens?
Well, for those who are capable, that does not ever end.
There's only so much blood out there. The elders, they don't like sharing what they don't have to. Maybe they'll trade down. Maybe they don't need someone as old as you. Maybe you're getting too old. Little too comfortable. Little too powerful.
Well, you won't have much hope of convincing us, but it is interesting to see the ideas that you're attached to.
Though if you're not willing to answer the more pressing questions, perhaps you'll answer a more minor one. Who is this sire you intend to kill?
Wonder if he's still even walking around. Cortez de Aruña. A man who thought he killed all his children at once. But he missed one. He
I
grins again.
suspected as much.
Are you truly one of his children that... Were any of them killed by hunters?
All my brothers died at the fire a few decades ago. Local townsfolk, they caught wind of Cortez. Came with the pitchforks and the fires and the torches. Well, he and some other elder fed us up, like a stuck pig. I saw it come a little too early. One of the poor bastards they burned wasn't even one of us.
And they were together in this.
Eating something.
Yes, Everly.
I suppose she got all of hers. But who knows, perhaps there's another one out there just like me. Looking for her blood.
You have had a cruel life, haven't you?
It's just enough to wake me up from that dream of change, of improving my lot in life. Thinking my sire might allow us to do something. Sometimes I'm grateful he opened my eyes to the whole thing. Doesn't do much good for my siblings.
It does not. Why did you not bring any of this up to the prince?
He starts to laugh. The prince. You think the prince cares about the neonates that get fed to keep the fires at bay? Hell, I bet that prince helped out Cortez. Maybe threw a couple of his own in. They've been doing this since before anyone can remember. That's why they stay on top.
You're not a lawless society.
No. We all have plenty of laws. They all serve the same age group.
How badly do you wish to continue existence?
Well, I would very much like to see my sire one more time, like I said.
Yes. I must say I am upset at the betrayal of Eden, Everly. But, of course, I speak of working within the system, not outside it. But mercy could be granted if you simply give us the information we seek.
How honest is Robert being?
He doesn't actually really expect mercy, but he'll just throw it out there. It's going to be a lie.
Okay. You can go manipulation, empathy, or manipulation, subterfuge. Your call. Standard.
Go subterfuge.
All right.
Does my merit come into play here?
Persuade, charm, or command. You're telling him he'll get mercy. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. You have 6 successes. You defended with 1. You sure do sound convincing.
Sure does.
Perhaps this uprising. Perhaps they wouldn't mind if just one of their soldiers gave up some information. It's certainly not as important as me setting things right.
Absolutely.
If you can assure that if I give up your information and swear not to join them again, you let me go free. You let me go hunt down.
I do not think you'll be able to do much on your own. But under my watchful gaze, perhaps you can get the vengeance you seek.
I always appreciated these anarchs and their point of view, but at the end of the night, I really only care about one end. Fine.
And we have an agreement.
We have an agreement.
Very good. Then I'll ask the same question. And afterwards you will stick close to me.
After London, we had charted a route following the south of the Isle. We had intended on continuing on. Planned on meeting up with a ship in the Irish Sea before stopping at Douglas. The Von Danzig.
Does the name of the ship sound familiar, or do we just know the type of ship that the one that went missing is?
Ellen, you had a really high success when you were investigating rumors about such ships, and that name does sound familiar, as possibly related to the same ship Barbaros lost.
Then the ship that Barbaros, lost track of.
He lost track of it, all right, when it was reacquired by new agents. A man by the name of Pierce Lockwood is at the captain now. You know, I heard a rumor about who took the ship. Not sure if it's true. Was not there myself to confirm. I heard it was those two gauntlet lords.
Truly.
Some of the crew got to talking. Word spread out. Might just be a rumor. But I do get some enjoyment in thinking about that.
Yes, this is most helpful information.
By chance you come by the Von Danzig, you might ask the crew themselves. I think some of the originals are still there.
Yes.
In any case, the Von Danzig was gonna deliver us some blood dolls, and we bring those to Douglas. Supply the base.
Then you have not heard.
He looks to you.
The town known as Douglas is no more.
How do you mean that, goodness?
Please don't call me that.
He smiles.
I mean that there were a good 50 or so fledglings released upon the city. It is no more.
Oh, that is a development. Kind of looks off in thought, still chained and straining to look. Well, I cannot rightly say what that would do to the Von Danzig's docking plans. Although I suspect they're somewhere still in the Irish Sea, picking up slaves off the Irish coasts.
That certainly is a start of where to look.
Surely I've given enough information to prove my good intent of abandoning the anarch cause. Free to pursue just my own agenda. You can understand that. His eyes go to you, Robert.
I can, but did you not hear what I said? Our goals align in that the leadership of Lincoln have misstepped greatly. But for you to go out alone, to die alone, that would be a waste.
Nicholas gives Robert a sharp look.
Elined looks over at him as well, but she does her best to keep her controlled expression.
Jean-Marc did not care about what happened to the neonates then. Now he's in hell. Whoever is rare now, I doubt they care much either. But I'm a patient individual. I can bide my time until Cortez is good and unsuspected. I promise not to waste the unlife you would be freeing.
She'll look over at Nicholas.
What did she say? I'm sorry.
She'll look over at Nicholas.
Ah.
Do you have any other questions you would like to cover to gain further information from him? You are the one that's most skilled with interrogation.
We'll need names and numbers.
Yes, a very good call. Names of associates.
Timelines. If we're going to let you live, you have to give us everything.
You can see the first sign of perhaps uncertainty in his eyes as he looks between each of you. If I give you everything I know, you all give me your word that I get a chance, another chance out there in the world.
Robert has noticed the glares from the others, and he'll look at them again before speaking. Indeed, this is a complete betrayal of the anarch cause. I would be inclined towards keeping my word.
He looks to the other two to see if they're going to respond.
I have no reason not to keep my word.
We can certainly talk to the higher-ups for you.
How does that sit with you?
Very well. And he will, at that time, give off all the information that he has on the Anarchs, which is somewhat limited. You learn from this man that he spends most of his time on board a ship, and very little with the main Anarch forces, of which the times he has met up with them, he describes them being the numbers of anywhere between 20 to 40 cainites, although it seems to vary and fluctuate based on who's present. And he says that at any time a dozen or 2 dozen could be out scouting or doing other tasks. They're a highly mobile group, and Douglas was their base. Without that, he doesn't know where they would group, or rather where they would make a home at, but he does tell you that it does sound like Carlisle is a target in the summer still. That seems to be updated information. There's no change in the plan. Broga Ironbend is going to be hunted down come summer, with some force from the north. He isn't sure about specifics on that. And so you get, of course, the names you didn't already know: Jack Timbers, Robert DeFore, Alan Alice. And I think all of you knew Judith was an anarch, but he says that not knowing that you know it.
Okay.
So he really does spill everything. So what do you say about loosening these chains a bit?
Yes.
He smiles, looking relieved. You will not regret this, and you'll never see me again.
Well.
Oh, go ahead.
So do me a favor and try not to tarnish our lineage too much.
He just kind of looks at you, somewhere between confused and concerned. And do you free him?
Yeah, Robert will free him. The other word he would say is, I think Cortez has done enough of that.
I would tend to agree, he says, looking back to Elenid. I do thank you for being so reasonable. Glad we could find some common ground. And unless you stop him, he will make his own way out.
Yeah, Elened's not gonna explain what she said at all.
Oof.
So the three of you are left in the wake of this cell.
Okay, she'll look over to them. So, how do we explain this to the prince without getting ourselves killed?
We present all the information we've learned from our multiple sources.
Do you truly think that will be enough?
We tell him that we played the man for a fool. I have every intention of following him.
Yes, I do have some business in that direction as well. However, we do have pressing matters to deal with.
That'd be a good start, that we still have eyes on him. I will present this to the prince and discover how he feels about the situation. And then we make haste to head north.
Agreed.
Very well.
All right. So the group of you, after some discussion, make your way out of the Tower of London and back into the streets. We will fade the scene on the side of you rejoining the London streets. And we will end it there and pick it up again at the next game. Good game. I had fun.
I didn't lose another hand. Yay.
No, you rolled amazingly. He had all these tricks I was going to pull out, and it's like, nope, he fell and got his head cut off.
The best laid plans never survive player involved.
Not one trick. I was really surprised you got him to even stop to, like, talk to him. It was like nothing less than like 5 successes on difficulty 9. Is he going to say anything to this? And then you got like 6 successes.
And all he had to say was, yeah, one of us gotta die. It's pretty much, it's you or both of us.
Yeah, I like that scene a lot. He's been present for a long time, and when I saw that the route of events was leading you to him, I was like going back in my mind because like he has multiple perspectives to think about. I'm like, I don't see any way this going down except for if he finds out that Judith knows what she knows. He's gonna kill her. But then he didn't at all. Like, not at all.
I mean, he tried.
He
Sorta.
did. It was really sad.
I mean, yeah. I've just kind of been embracing this whole doing the unexpected thing. It's been working well. So.
Yeah, you're rolling like a madman. Alright, 1 experience all around. Let's do some entertaining role players. I think that's going to be difficult tonight. We will start with Judith.
I want to give it to Robert. I'm kind of enjoying this path that he's taking. He's almost, but not quite, seeing the elders the same way that the anarchs are seeing them. And he's obviously seeing the changes in himself, and he's not happy with either of those observations.
Very insightful.
Yep.
Very insightful. Robert?
um. Hmm. Hmm. Well, I'll give it to Nicholas. I really liked his interaction with the hunter, and even going as far as tasting hunter blood just to go fully about his experimental nature, I suppose.
Cool. Yeah, I made a little note in the hunter's sheet, and I'm like, if anyone tries to feed from him, it's going to hurt a lot. Nicholas, how about you?
He posted in chat.
Oh. Okay. Got it, Robert. And Elenid.
I am giving mine to Judith.
For the not dying.
For the not dying and continuing to play both sides.
Actually, she's kind of circling back around on her original plan. She's always been of a mind to kind of nudge everyone into like an uneasy alliance and a parlay because reasons and stuff. But yeah, you'd have to go back and listen to other sessions.
Cool. Great game. Enjoyed it a lot. Looking forward to next game, and I think that should be fine. Yes. So we'll plan on next week. We'll pick it up then.